In this video, we are going to practice adding fractions. Here I have written the problem 2/4 plus 1/4. Here I have written it horizontally and here vertically. Nothing changes about the process of our adding. On a fraction, these bottom digits here, this is called the denominator, and the denominator tells us the size of the pieces. The digit on top is called the numerator, and the numerator tells us how many pieces we're describing or talking about. So in the case of 2/4, we're describing or talking about two pieces, and they're each the size of a fourth. On 1/4, we have one piece that's the size of 1/4. So with this 2/4 plus 1/4, both of these fractions are describing the same sized pieces. This is what this might look like. Here I have 4/4, and if I put them together, this would make up the whole. My first fraction here is describing two of those fourths. There they are, 1, 2, 2/4. Then I'm simply adding one more fourth to that. Now I can see I have a total of 3 pieces. And each of those pieces is the size of a fourth. Here I have written it horizontally. Here I will write it vertically. So 2/4 plus one more fourth equals 3/4. What do we do then if we are faced with two fractions, 1/2 and 2/5, that do not describe the same size pieces? Here I have halves and here I have fifths. Well, we have to find a common denominator. We have to make the pieces the same size. In order to find a common denominator, I'm going to extend my equals bar here. I don't want to change the value of this 1/2 or the 2/5. I want to find equivalent fractions that have the same sized pieces. If you do not know how to find common denominators, I have a whole video on common denominators that you can go watch. I have halves and fifths here. So I'm thinking, okay, what multiple can I find for both of these? If you were not sure, you could list the multiples of 5 and 2 over here. 5 times 1 is 5, 5 times 2 is 10. I'm going to stop right here because I know I could find or use, the other denominator to find a common denominator. I just want to make sure it's the least common denominator. So I will stop at 5 times 2. Then going over to the multiples of 2, I see that they have 10 in common and they have nothing else in common. If I kept going, I could find more common denominators or more common multiples, but I'm looking for the least common multiple. I'm going to use tenths as my common denominator. So here, I'm going to multiply 2/5 times 2 halves. Why did I choose 2 halves? Well, 5 times 2 is 10, and so what I do to the bottom, I must also do to the top. 2 times 2 is 4. Again, I want to make these equivalent. I don't want to add any value or take away any value. So here, I'm just multiplying by one whole. 2 halves is one whole. Going up to the top, 1/2, trying to get it to tenths. So I am going to think, okay, 2 times what gives me 10? That is 5. And what I do on the bottom, I must do on the top. 1 times 5 is 5. 5 tenths is equivalent to 1/2. Now I have tenths on both fractions. I'm talking about the same sized pieces. I have 5 pieces. I added 4 more pieces. Now I have 9 pieces, and all of those pieces are the size of a tenth. 1/2 plus 2/5 equals 9/10. Let's do one more example. I have 5/8 plus 3/4. I'm showing you this one horizontally to show you that the process is exactly the same. I see here my pieces are the size of eighths. Here my pieces are the size of fourths. So I'm going to have to change those denominators to find a common denominator, to make them the same size pieces. I noticed that I could multiply my denominators together. I could use 8/8 over here and get 30 seconds, and I could use 4/4 over here to get 30 seconds to make a common denominator, but I see something better. I see that I know a multiplication fact dealing with this 4, and I could make that 4 an 8. I know that I can multiply by 2 halves here, because 4 times 2 is 8. I'm going to write my new fractions down below. And I want to make the common denominator. Well, this one is already 8ths. I'm going to leave this 5/8 alone. It's already 8ths. I can make this one 8ths and make them the same size pieces. 4 times 2 gave me 8 as a denominator. 3 times 2 is going to give me 6 as a numerator. When I add those together, I have 5 pieces plus 6 more pieces. That's 11 pieces, and they're all the size of an 8th. When you're adding fractions, you have to have a common denominator. That means both of your fractions are describing the same sized pieces. If you are given 2 fractions, like here, 1/2 and 2/5, that do not have the same size pieces, you have to find that common denominator before you can add them.